Welcome to the Mountain Dude Podcast, brought to you by Initial Ascent, where we share stories of grit, determination, and the relentless pursuit of growth. This is a space where backcountry hunting meets the deeper lessons of life. Success born from struggle, and the art of carrying heavy loads more comfortably, both physically and metaphorically, through faith and perseverance. Join us as we explore the paths that shape us, celebrate victories big and small, and fuel our journey with hope and tenacity. This is the Mountain Dude Podcast, where we climb higher together.
I love it.
How goes it?
Good. How about you?
It's good, man. I was telling these guys out here yesterday, or last night, late afternoon, took the side-by-side out, ran up Reynolds Creek.
Okay.
Just to kind of see how things felt.
How to hold together?
Pretty good. I mean, got some Advil going this morning.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you just nice and stiff?
But yeah, I mean, It held it pretty good. I don't know, about an hour on
Okay.
it.
That's great.
So, yeah, I noticed, too, they've got no e-bikes out there anymore, which is a blessing.
Oh, really?
That's where we used to do all of our horseback riding is back there.
No kidding. I did not know that they restricted that. That's a good thing.
It is, because for a while now, it was a lot of e-bikes out there. And, being a former horse person, man, you don't want an e-bike come screaming up on you when you're back there on those trails. No. And I noticed yesterday when we drove out there, it looks like they're saying no e-bikes out there, which is good.
Okay. Former horse person. I didn't know that. I might have to get into that. I didn't know you were a horse guy.
I married into it.
Really?
And then I got hooked beyond hooked. Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah, we'll have to.
I would absolutely say that's some of my best memories in the last 30 years.
Okay.
For sure.
No kidding. How did I not know that?
I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, let's pray and let's get to this.
Let's do it right.
Lord, we're so grateful to be able to just gather here around this table again, Lord. I'm so blessed with this friendship with Joe, Lord. We're so excited about this opportunity to just share, and I'm excited to just get this out there, Lord, to just be a light for you, whatever you have for the people, Lord, that you may just give it to them. May you just use us in any way possible. Lord, I love you. We're so gracious for you. We say these things humbly in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I'm excited for this, really excited.
Oh, are you now?
Yes, I've been looking forward to this. We talked about doing kind of a deep dive into you and Dennis.
Yep, it's been a minute.
Yeah, we talked about it from the very beginning, and it just now is shaken out, which is great. Kind of gave everybody an intro to the podcast. Now let's give them a behind-the-scenes look at Joe Elliston. Yeah. And you've already seen the behind-the-scenes of Dennis Stokes, or if you haven't, go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah. Which I haven't gotten through all that yet. That was good.
It was really special.
Good,
I really enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to this one. And this is not the look at Initial Ascent. Like there's that podcast is out there, and maybe we'll talk about it more in the future. But this is I want the people to actually know Joe Elliston and who you are.
Sure, we want to open this book.
I think we do.
Oh man, it might be a horror story. I don't know.
I got a good feeling this one will turn out well.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, man. Yeah. We'll see. Well, yeah, Yeah, it's interesting because, to your point, we started talking about this a long time ago. And I don't know, dude. It was one of those podcasts. I've done a fair amount of podcasts. And I think, talking about the business, it's kind of second nature, right? But talking about yourself, I told Natalie when I was kind of been wrapping my head around this, I'm like, well, I kind of got my obituary figured out. I can just give it to you.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Now that I've kind of gone through kind of my life a little bit in my head. And I guess we can just dive into it.
Start at the roots.
Well, I'm 50. I'll be 55 in January.
Okay.
I was born in Missouri, believe it or not, Columbia, Missouri. And my dad was going to vet school there. So I was born in 1971. I don't know when he finished up vet school. Close to like 70 maybe. And shortly thereafter, we moved to Oregon. Obviously, I don't remember it.
Okay.
We lived on the coast at Coos Bay. And
that's such a cool area.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I actually got to play Bandon Dunes down there, which is one of the most epic, hardest. I think it is the hardest golf course I've ever played in my life.
Really?
the wind never stops.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a cool course.
I can't golf to save my life. So.
No?
No.
I started getting back into it. I played a lot when I lived in Vegas, but until the neck surgery, I was playing with Ty.
Oh, really?
Getting back into it. Yeah, he played when he was younger. So, but yeah, when I was little, we moved to Coos Bay. Very few memories because a little bitty squirt. Mm-hmm. And then we moved to Blackfoot, Idaho, believe it or not, which was pretty cool. We manufactured in Blackfoot for a while.
Yeah.
But we were only there a couple years. Again, I don't remember much of it. I remember swimming in the canal when I was a little bitty guy, which obviously that's a big no-no.
Yeah.
But back then, 50 years ago, it wasn't so much.
Right.
I remember
it's funny that sticks with you.
I know, because I would guess I was probably 3.
Wow.
And I remember the sucker fishes in the canal sucking on my leg.
No kidding.
Yeah. Isn't that weird how you remember just the weirdest stuff?
Yeah. It's a core memory for you. It just sticks. Yeah. That's hilarious.
So, but then we moved back to, so my dad was doing large animal, I think both in Oregon and in Idaho. And then we moved back when I was probably, I'm guessing 4 or 5 to Kansas. And my dad's from Oklahoma, so his family was down there. My mom's family was from Kansas City. Mm-hmm. And we moved to Kansas City, Kansas. And man, it was we rented a place in this neighborhood in Kansas City, Kansas that backed up to the woods. Okay. And as a little kid, man, we lived in the woods. And I need to say, I've got an older brother. His name's John. John's 3 years older than me. And we played. My gosh, did we play hard in the woods. And back then it was like the expectations were, and you guys have heard this, but like when the street lights came on, that's when you literally knew you were going home. Mm-hmm. And everybody had their bicycles out, and it was back in the days of Schwinn that were probably 40 pounds, indestructible.
Yep.
But we built trails all through the woods for riding our bikes. So that was our quote mountain biking as little kids. No helmets. Nobody wore helmets. They didn't even exist back then, I don't think. We would build ramps to jump. So it was just a lot of playing outdoor, growing up as a kid. So when I look at kind of my early years up through, before middle school, that's what we did. And we played we had a triangle in the neighborhood, so all the kids would meet there. We'd play baseball, we'd play football, we'd play basketball, whatever. It was just constantly play.
How big of a neighborhood was this?
So I would say in the neighborhood there were probably 100 homes.
Oh, okay. So good size. So there's quite a few kids that would get together.
Yeah, there was probably 8 or 10 families with kids that we all played together. And it was a big U-shape, kind of a tier-shaped neighborhood. You come down and it circled around, and then you had the triangle up at the top. Okay. And it was perfect. It was like we had our own field as kids, and that's where that's where we played a lot, there in the woods. So that was kind of the early years. My brother and I were super close, still are. John, man, he knows me better. He knows Joe, right, from every day of my life. Yeah. And John and I are super close. You had a chance to meet John a couple years ago at the expo.
Yes.
Kind of a lot of people think we're almost twins.
Yeah, I absolutely could see the same.
That came in handy for when I needed a fake ID back in
I bet it did.
The pre-Jesus days. But John and I were super close. We went through some stuff together early age, right? My mom was our rock. No ifs, ands, or buts. She was a phenomenal lady. But my dad, he's a phenomenal man, but he drank. And it was rough, man. There were some rough years in there that, man, it just, alcohol is so destructive on a family.
So destructive.
And it changes people in so many negative ways. It's, you learn as you become a Christian going through it that sin is generational, and it has impacts on generations.
Absolutely.
And man, that is so true.
Yeah.
And so John and I, we went through stuff together, and I think that's probably part of the reason why he and I are so close.
That makes sense.
It was rough times, I would say, from the time I was up until about middle school. Just a lot of stuff that went around that, man, just nobody should go through. Mm-hmm. And we were always there for my mom, and she was an amazing lady. She was always worried about us. And even though she was sometimes put in a pretty bad situation, it was always wanted to take care of us kids. So, yeah, glad to kind of get through that phase of life, so to speak, you know, and the drinking slowed way down. You know, my dad and I, we've got a great relationship today. And I think it's, you know, those early years of dealing with those situations, you know, it shapes you in a lot of different ways.
It truly does. Yep.
And when you're a little kid going through, I'm just gonna call it what it is, trauma like that, because it was, you don't know how to handle stuff. And you always, as a little kid, if things aren't right in the house, you think, what am I doing wrong? Mm-hmm. And you carry those burdens. Right. And there was a time where they separated, and I remember just telling my dad, I'm sorry, because you think you did it.
Right.
And those were rough years.
Yeah.
But one of the byproducts, I think, of that was when I was in probably second and third grade. They were separated somewhere around that time, and I started to develop migraines.
Really?
And for those that have ever suffered with migraines, man, I feel for you. It's horrible. I would guess, Chris, over the last, 45 years, almost 50 years, I bet I've spent 3 to 4 years in bed because of migraines.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. And
really?
Back then, as a little kid, I can remember, having a migraine. My mom would come to get me at school or whatever, and just shaking, my whole body just shaking. And then your body, when they would get really severe, which was a lot when I was a kid, you would actually get so much pressure and strain that your body would start throwing up.
No kidding.
And, it was rough years, just physically going through that. So I've dealt with migraines my whole life. And I would say over time, they've gotten less severe, less frequent. I haven't had a really severe one. Well, with this neck surgery, I had 10 days I was in bed with migraine. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, I would say they've definitely gotten less severe over time. But my gosh, is it debilitating. People don't understand how bad migraines
Sounds
are.
terrible. That's such horrible. A long time when you put that into perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that's from some of the trauma, or what do you think that stems from?
I think it's,
who knows? I
think it certainly had something to do with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
No offense or buts, the onset of it. I would say at the same time, when I was in third grade, while all of this is going on, I was diagnosed with dyslexia.
Okay.
I was struggling in school.
Yeah.
Obviously the home life was rough, and I'm diagnosed with this. And back then, nobody even knew what that was. Right. And one, they didn't know anything about it. Two, the teachers didn't have any clue, and I had some pretty bad teachers back then that didn't know how to deal with it and would make fun of kids.
No kidding.
So you add all of that recipe together, and it's a disaster for a little kid.
Absolutely.
So my mom, she was real proactive, trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? How do we help Joe? And I started going to a guy, his name was Dr. Frost, and I probably went 2 years every day after school to reprogram how my brain is, how I think. And that went on probably till about 5th grade, I'm guessing. And man, he made a huge impact on me, because when you're at that age, you've got all of this stuff going on, then you've got that going on. Your self-confidence is in the toilet as a kid. None, essentially. Yeah, and you think that you're the problem of what's going on. So he helped a ton. I remember one story, I was over at his, he did an annual deal over at his property, which was on a lake. And me and this other kid, we took off. And keep in mind, I'm probably in 4th grade. We took off on a little sailboat. He lived at this place called Lake Quivira. And
4th grade.
4th grade, yeah. Crazy. So we took off on a sailboat. And I knew, and at the time we were going to, somewhere around that time in my life, we had season tickets to the Kansas City Royals. And that's back when they were a contender for, I think they did win the World Series that year. So anyways, George Brett lived at Lake Quivira, and I was a huge George Brett fan. We actually had tickets like 5 to 7 rows back on third base. So I would see George Brett. We'd get to the games early. The players come sign balls. So I was dead set. We're going to go find George Brett's place.
Here we go.
Never sailed in lives. So me and this kid take off, and I can't believe, maybe they just didn't know. I can't remember, but we're gone. And lo and behold, George Brett has broke his ankle or broke his leg or something. I can't remember, but I remember he was in a cast, and I saw him sitting on his dock.
No way.
Yep. So we somehow navigated over towards him, and he was like, "What are you guys doing?"
These 4th grade kids
in
a sailboat.
And he knew, I don't know how he got a hold of Dr. Frost, but long story short, they had to come over, drive us, pick us up, and somebody took the sailboat back. But by gosh, we got it to George Brett's place and found him.
Did you get an autographed baseball?
Oh, man, I had the whole Kansas City Royals Super
goodness.
Bowl. Or not Super Bowl, but World Series. And I actually ended up giving that baseball away to a kid that was going through some rough times.
That's cool.
That was a baseball fanatic. And his dad, actually, who I'm going to have dinner with tomorrow night, is going to be in town. But yeah, it was kind of cool to be able to pass that baseball on.
Yeah, how special is that?
Yeah,
that's cool.
So yeah, I mean, so I that was kind of, those early years. They're rough, and then I got to middle school, and I would say, and I went to a school. It's called St. Patrick's. I was raised Catholic, so I got to middle school, and at that point in my life, and I don't know if it's just because I had to grow up early because of circumstances. Mm-hmm. I had to deal with stuff that most shouldn't. Nobody should. And so I went through puberty, man, early, like really? 5th grade early.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. So
by the middle of 5th grade, I'm almost the size that I am now.
Really?
But I was a lot less in weight. So I was probably an inch shorter than I am now, and I was probably $120, $125. And I found sports.
Okay.
And I excelled. I was really, really good at it.
Yeah.
So that became my life. I mean, sports it was my outlet. It was something that I could do really, really well. And one of the things, that my parents did is they always gave me opportunities to be surrounded by really good talent.
Okay.
And that was a lesson that I didn't learn until later in life, that, the sacrifices they had made. And I don't know if every time it was truly intentional, mm-hmm. but the results have shaped me in a lot of ways. So when I started wrestling and I started playing football, with football, there was a guy that was laying carpet at our house, and he was a coach of a Pop Warner team over in Missouri. So keep in mind, Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri. It's
Bordered.
Just split by the river.
Right.
But it was probably a 40-minute drive. My dad's office was in Independence, Missouri, which was probably about a 20, 25-minute drive. So I would get out of school, and it was almost always my brother. John and I we spent a lot of time together. Man, he is undescribable how much of a good brother he is. Mm-hmm. But he would literally pick me up from school most days. It was either him or my mom, but John did a lot of it. And then drive me to my dad's office. And then once my dad got off work at around 6, maybe 5:45, 5:30, we would then go to football practice over at Truman High School out in the middle of Missouri. And, man, I loved it. We went undefeated a couple of years in a row. It was fun because, like, every week there was write-ups about you in the newspapers.
Yeah.
So cool. It was like it built me up.
Confidence, which you didn't have.
Which I didn't have.
Yeah.
And at the same time as this is kind of happening, I'm gaining a lot of confidence in my ability at school, right? Yeah. And I'm starting to fall in love with learning. So I would say those years were fantastic. I mean, I remember back then I was part of the Pop Warner League for football. And I was always a really good kicker. So back then they did a deal. It wasn't both years, or it wasn't the 3 years, but I think I was like in 7th grade. And they did pump, pass, and kick was the competition. Okay. And it'd be kids from all over Kansas City area, Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri, that were tied into Pop Warner. And we would compete against each other for the longest pass, most accurate, the longest kick, field goal, and then the longest punt. Mm-hmm. In my 7th grade year, I won the longest kick and the longest pass. So I won both those two. Wow. And the award was held at the 50-yard line at the Chiefs game. And Lamar Hunt, who was the owner of the Chiefs, he gave it. So when I got there, they had me go up into Lenny Dawson, his suite, and that's where I changed. I put on my uniform and got to meet Lenny, and I can't remember who else was all in there. And then we went down and went out on the field, and Lamar Hunt.
So this is a really big deal.
It was a huge deal, man.
Yeah.
And so that year, my coach, like I said, we went undefeated. Mm-hmm. And I was a running back, but then I did kicking, and I was on defense as a linebacker. Keep in mind, I was a lot bigger proportionally to the other ones. And my coach, we were killing this team, and he's like, Joe, I want to see how far you can kick a field goal. And I'm like, what? And he goes, I want to see if you can kick this field goal. I'm like, and I kicked field goals, which that's what we did back then. Uh-huh. And in 7th grade, man, I kicked a 43-yard field goal.
Holy smokes.
Into the wind.
No kidding.
Yep. So it was something, that I loved football. It was everything to me. At the same time, wrestling's going on. So again, back to my parents put me in a really good spot. There was a wrestling team called Blue Valley, which it was the coach. His name was Mike McCutcheon. He was a phenomenal coach at getting results. And when I mean results, it's different back then. Today, there's no way Mike could survive as a coach. He'd be in jail. But he was tough beyond tough. So we would have practices, and if Mike got upset, so I wrestled for Blue Valley probably 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. If Mike got upset, if we weren't performing, we weren't putting in 110% effort, he would literally clear the gym. Mm-hmm. He would make all the parents leave, and he would lock the doors. And we knew, crap, here we go. And what he would do is he would take his hand like this, and he wouldn't say anything. He would just look at us, and he would go like that. And that meant we got in a back bend position for like 5 minutes. Oh. And then he would take a break, and then he would do it again. And then he would just go like this, and then we would just start running and start running and start running and start running. And you, having a background in jiu-jitsu, after all of that, then he would have us go live for 45 minutes from now wrestling.
Oh, my gosh.
So, I mean, we annihilated everybody in wrestling. And one of the kids that was on my team, and it's who I mostly wrestled with in practice, his name was Justin Race. So this is back in, the early 80s, roughly, right? 82, 83, something like that. So Justin, for those of you who don't know the name Race, his dad was Handsome Harley Race. So Handsome Harley Race was an all-star wrestler. No kidding. And a huge name back in those days. He's wrestling Ric Flair. He's hanging out with Andre Giant. Yeah. I mean, and so Harley, he would also help coach us. Okay. And Harley was a gentle giant. I mean, this guy was phenomenal. But with kids, he was fantastic. So Justin and I would go at it, and we were both pretty much equal. Justin wrestled a few more years than me, but we just battled it out. And I can remember one year, Harley Race was wrestling Ric Flair for the world title at Kemper Arena, and they had this idea of like, you know what? Let's get a handful of you guys and intermission in front of 17,000 people. We're going to have you wrestle at Kemper Arena in between the wrestling matches and then the championship match.
No kidding.
Ric Flair and Harley. So Justin and I, we go out there and we wrestled, man, live in front of 17,000 people. I think is what the number was.
Jeez.
I think it was in 8th grade when that happened. But yeah, just some really cool experiences, all tied around sports, right? So,
how'd that match go?
It was.
Do you remember?
It was like we didn't do a full match. Okay. It was like we got out there
exhibition style.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. But it was
fun,
freaking awesome.
Entertain.
There was so much bounce in that arena.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, because back then I think they would put plywood underneath there and a whole bunch of things, and it gave it a lot of spring.
Lots of flex. Yeah.
But man, those guys. I mean, yes, it's those people are actors, but they get hurt. And back in those days, if you looked at Harley's forehead, it was all scar tissue because what they would do is when they were down wrestling, they would take a razor blade and cut their heads to get blood. And you can imagine, the head bleeds a lot.
Ouch.
I
didn't know that.
Oh, back in those days, man, it was insane.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah. So
those people are freak athletes too.
Oh yeah, no ifs, ands, or buts. Yeah. No ifs, ands. I mean, and they put their bodies through just torture. Yeah. So then I went on to high school. In between high school, my 8th grade summer, I spent 6 weeks in Alaska, which was a cool deal. I flew up there and we flew into the Yukon, and I camped on a lake, and it was just an amazing experience. Again, my parents just gave me some opportunities to do some things that most people couldn't do. And then we drove back the Alaskan Highway. Back then, I think it was like 600-700 miles of gravel on the Alaskan Highway. But it, growing up, my dad was our Cub Scout leader.
Okay.
And he put on the hunter safety course. And my dad was a big time hunter growing up as a kid. So the hunting was always in our house. Hunter safety, we did I did a lot of duck hunting as a kid, a lot of quail hunting. Didn't do much big game hunting. It wasn't something we did. We'd go up to South Dakota and go pheasant hunting. Matter of fact, when one of the years we went to South Dakota, I'm right-hand dominant. I broke my right hand and I broke my left foot in a football game, tackling this kid.
Goodness.
And we were going to South Dakota like 2 days later.
You're going.
We're going.
Yeah.
So I've got a cast on this hand and I got a cast on this foot, and I can't hold the shotgun because of the cast. So I just switched.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
And that's when I found out I got a dominant left eye. I've never gone back. I've shot left-handed ever since.
I was going to say, I thought you were left-handed. Yeah. I was very curious because I know you shoot left-handed.
Yeah. So that's how it came about.
No kidding.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, my dad taught hunter safety. It was something that it was such an amazing program that he would teach, because he would have stations set up out at Wyandotte County Lake, and we would have an archery section. We had a section where we actually shot a machine gun. They actually built fences, different style fences, to teach you how to crawl through a fence, how to hand the gun properly.
Yeah.
They had boats there to teach you how to get in and out of a boat with a shotgun. So
this was back in the day.
It was.
They don't
good,
do that
man.
stuff the same nowadays.
Man, they don't, unfortunately. It's really unfortunate. But the point of all that is, it was a part of who we were, right? My dad, when he was a kid, he got to go hunt all over the world. I've actually got his elephant tusk in my office.
Yeah, that's right.
And I've got a hunter's hartebeest in my office that I think there's only a couple hundred of them left in the world.
Wow.
But he got to do some amazing thing back, and he hunted all through Somalia, and then, he's spent a lot of time in Canada, Alaska. So it was a big part of growing up, but not the big game side of it. And so as I moved into the high school years, sports continued to be a big part of my life, but I started doing more and more hunting with my buddies. And again, back to my parents really gave me a lot of opportunities. They sent me to a school in Kansas City, Missouri. It's called Rockers High School. And there's no question, it is the most premier high school in the Kansas City area.
Really?
It's an all-boys Jesuit college prep school. My high school cost way more than college for my parents. And my parents, we were not wealthy. Matter of fact, the area I grew up in, Kansas City, Kansas, by today's standards, it was the hood.
Really?
Right? It was rough.
Yeah.
Back then, the Bloods and the Crips were a big thing, and it was real where we lived.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember many times people trying to break into the house. I remember one time my mom sending our Doberman, because we had a Doberman Pinscher, out the sliding glass door as people were trying to come through. And
wild.
Yeah, so we had people try to break in. So we had guns everywhere, and it was for protection. I can't tell you how many times my car got broke into and the stereo stolen out of as a kid growing up. But yeah, it was not a great area by any means. Mm-hmm. So my parents didn't want me to go to school in that area. And so they sent me to Rockhurst, and you had to, you just couldn't go. You had to pass a test to get in.
Wow.
And it was all boys. It was the most amazing experience.
Really?
Yeah. And growing up on this side of the tracks and then going to Rockhurst, which I think Rockhurst today is somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000 a year for the high school.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it's insanely expensive.
No kidding.
And again, my parents, they did not have much money, but they made a huge sacrifice. And yeah, I'm super, super blessed.
Did your brother go to...
He didn't, and I wish he would have had that opportunity. And I think maybe what happened, and I don't know this for sure, he went to Bishop Ward, which was actually the school my mom graduated from.
Okay.
So it wasn't the public schools. It was a little bit of a drive, not as far as Rockhurst. Rockhurst was 45 minutes to an hour away.
Wow.
And Bishop Ward, I'm going to guess, was 25, 30 minutes.
Okay.
I don't think he had a great high school experience, so I think when it came time for me, they were like,
let's go a different direction.
Let's go a different route. And my mom was adamant on getting me into Rockhurst. I was one of two boys that got in from out there.
Holy smokes.
So it was,
wow.
Yeah, I was very, very fortunate to get that opportunity. And so Rockhurst, man, I just fell in love with it. There's nothing like spending 4 years with just a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, no.
You know, at that age. And we got in so much trouble.
I bet you did.
Oh, my gosh. That's a chapter we won't go into the details of. But we had two sister schools, St. Teresa and Sion. We did a lot with those sister schools.
Okay.
I had a core group of friends that, man, we were inseparable. One of them I still kind of stay in touch with a little bit today, but not much. It was fun. It was good. But what it did is it opened my eyes up to what's possible. Growing up where I grew up, kind of in the poor area, you only know what you know.
Right.
And everybody had a job. Nobody really was, an entrepreneur or, money. You just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But once I got into this new environment of the extreme wealthy, and I mean the extreme. One of my good friends in high school, I mean, we rode around. They're in their chauffeur. They would pick us up in the limousine, and we'd spend the night going around. And, yeah, it was insane, man. They had private jets. I mean, it was a different lifestyle. So coming from this side of the tracks, and now getting and seeing this,
completely eye-opening.
Holy cow! It was like, wow, I'd never seen houses like this. I'd never seen lifestyle like this.
Right.
And it was something. It was like, as I look back, probably one of the most impactful things in my life was that they sent me to Rockhurst. And I'm forever grateful because it really did open things up. So, yeah, man, it was amazing. I continued with the sports. I was a 4-year letterman in wrestling. That just didn't happen. I was only a kid while I was there at Rockhurst.
Especially in a school that big.
This is a 5A.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I wrestled varsity for 4 years, played football, and it was just, at one point, my junior year or sophomore year, I can't remember, we were rated in the top 25 in the country for football. So Rockhurst is a powerhouse in football. And one of the kids on our team, his name was Kenya Rashid. He ended up going to play for OU, and then he went and played professional. But we just dominated in football. I think the 3 out of 4 years I was there, we won state. And that 1 year we were in the top 25.
Jeez. And you kept playing running back?
No. I did some. It was defensive. I played specialty teams. I still kicked.
Yep.
But yeah, it was good. It was really, really good. And then the wrestling, I wrestled. Now, one thing I will tell you, wrestling back then versus today has changed for the better. No ifs, ands, or buts. Because, and my brother was even more extreme than me for cutting weight. But back then,
I knew that's where you were headed.
Yeah, we cut
so bad.
Insane amount of weight. And I think it's probably caused some health issues long term, right? Yep. Because I would be playing football, being right around 150, and then I would drop all the way to 119. And
goodness gracious,
that's not easy to do.
No.
So the way,
especially in the quick turnarounds too. It's not like but some people don't understand this. It's not like you see in a UFC card where you have like 32 hours to rehydrate.
Right.
That's not how it is.
No.
Like, the wrestling scene is totally different.
Totally
you're getting
different
on the mats.
Yeah.
Dehydrated.
Totally different. I can remember going 3 days without water one time to cut weight. But kind of my process, and this is so bad. I'm so glad they don't do this anymore. But I would, like, I could cut 10 pounds in 3 days. And the way I would, a lot of it's just water weight, right? So how do you do that? Well, I'd put sweatpants on and sweat tops. And this is the old thick ones of the 80s, right?
Yep.
You know?
They don't make them quite like that
They
anymore.
don't anymore. And then I would put plastics over. So for people that don't know what plastics are, basically doesn't allow you to breathe.
Yeah.
And then I would put sweats over that. And then I would sleep that way with my electric blanket on high.
Oh, my goodness.
Or I would go to the Y. And back then they had a steam room, which it was a true steam room, right? You go in there, you can't see 2 feet in front of you. And I would go in there dressed the same way and just jump rope in the steam room. And we had one practice one time back in middle school where McCutcheon was so mad because we were hosting the tournament the next day. No, we had weigh-ins that night. I can't remember the specifics, but we were basically hosting the tournament. And I think he wanted to prove a point to all the other teams that were coming in. It was the hardest practice I've ever had in my life. And Mike made us put plastics on if we were more than a pound or two over. I would drop a pound or two like nothing in practice.
Right.
I dropped 10 pounds in 2 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, it was like insane. But so that was the mentality. I mean, that's what I did. I won't go there. There was so many things that we did to cut weight. But I got hooked on chewing tobacco because I could spit off some pounds.
Yep.
So I can guarantee you, and my brother was even more extreme. He cut more weight.
Oh, my goodness.
But I would bet you $1 million. This morning when my brother, he actually moved back to Columbia, Missouri.
Okay.
I will guarantee you John weighed himself this morning. Just like
still
I weighed myself this morning.
To this day.
And I guarantee you before he goes to bed, he'll weigh himself. And I will. It's just that crazy mindset that it created.
Programmed, essentially. Like that's...
Yeah.
Some people don't understand, too. So if you've never cut weight in your life, the dark places that you go to during that time, oh, my goodness.
I can remember taking water pills to just help me get more off.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If I were a female, they would have thrown me in a hospital.
No kidding.
You know, because that was insanity what we would do.
Oh, absolutely.
To cut
That's
weight.
ridiculous.
So
it's so unhealthy too. I'm so glad
unhealthy.
things have gone away from that.
Yeah. My last year I didn't go as extreme. I cut to 135. And I was probably 155. So I was still cutting 20 pounds that I didn't have. Yeah. But way better than all the way to 119.
Right.
So yeah, it was kind of crazy that time, but good times. I will tell you, there was, so going through this, we were raised Catholic and going to an all boys school that was Jesuit, a lot of Catholic influence. My mom was the rock. We'd go to church every Sunday. My dad did not go to church with us. But my mom did. And, I had a relationship with the Lord, I would say, Chris, but it was through the church.
Okay.
It wasn't necessarily a direct relationship.
Right.
And I can remember, I think I was 14 or 15 years old, somewhere around that age group. This was what I would say when I really, probably one of the most pivotal points in my life. No ifs, ands, or buts. But I was at home. It was nighttime. Everybody's in bed. It's probably 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I'm sitting on my bed. And my bed was like a queen-size bed. It faced the door that you walked into. And I can remember the closet was right here. My dresser was over here. And I had a window here. And the light on the back patio was on. And I'm sitting there, and I was just overwhelmed, this feeling of sorrow that how could we crucify our Lord and Savior? And I remember just sitting there, just literally bawling as a kid, as a 14-year-old kid, 14, 15-year-old kid. And just so much sorrow that how did we do that? How did we actually crucify our Lord and Savior? And I was playing this over in my head as I'm sitting there and just weeping, just full on. And Chris, as real as you are sitting there right there, the Holy Spirit appeared to me. And it was the most amazing experience because that sorrow was gone. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, there's no drug out there that could make you feel as good as I felt at that moment.
No.
Every bit of sorrow was gone. It's been like this craving that I've wanted to get it again. But I sat there and just looked at the Holy Spirit and had this complete sense of peace come over me. It's just like, it's okay.
Right.
And it changed me.
Absolutely.
It absolutely changed me. Now, did I live the Christian life yet? No.
You're still human. You're still flesh, right? Like,
right. But, and since I am human, where did I go? I started to question myself like, well, is your faith so small that the Lord had to present the Holy Spirit to you? Versus like thinking, which I've obviously changed my thoughts since then.
Right.
But it forever impacted me, and it shaped my relationship with the Lord, where it's unquestionable.
Right.
So I share that with you because as my journey continued with my faith, there was a lot of work still to be done on Joe at that point. So fast forward, I get through high school, go off to college, end up going to KU. If I'd do it over again, I don't think I would do that. No, it was an interesting time, man. This is back. I graduated in high school in '89, and KU was a yuppie school, but everybody was dressing grunge. So everybody's in Birkenstocks, dancing bears, it was a different time, man.
Yeah.
And they were trying to bring, it was not a good, comfortable place for me. So where I tell you, high school was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Middle school for me was phenomenal. I hated college.
Really?
Absolutely hated it. It just wasn't, and if I had to do it over again, I would go to a smaller, more rural.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
But my buddy in high school, we were roommates the first year. So my buddy, I should probably talk about that, man. His name is Jay Rick. Jay and I haven't talked I was back for like my 25th reunion. I saw Jay then.
Okay.
But we were really close friends. I had a lot of good friends, but Jay was kind of my close friend. And Jay and I started duck hunting a bunch in high school together. I mean, a lot. He had never hunted. He actually moved into our house. It was kind of a crazy story. His dad, oh man, there's so much I could talk about, Chris. Holy cow. So his dad actually went to his dad went to Harvard, and his roommate was a Unabomber. Whole nother story.
No way.
Yeah, but his dad was a brilliant doctor.
Holy smokes.
Jay came from extreme wealth, but things weren't great. I don't think in his home life, and I think it was my junior year. I called Jay. He had his own phone line, and I called him for something, and the recording on the message, I'm sitting there with my mom, the recording on the message, hey, this is Jay. I'm no longer living here. I've moved to Joe's house. His number is such and such. And I looked at my mom, and I'm like, I think Jay's moving in. And she's like, okay. And that's how my parents were, though, man. We had guys live there. We had another guy later in life live there. But anyways, 10 minutes later, man, Jay's there. And so he lived at our house probably for over a year.
Wow. Okay.
So he really wanted to get into the hunting. So Jay went through hunter safety, right? And the day he passed hunter safety, he lived downstairs in our basement. Kansas, you got basements, in the Midwest. I'm literally upstairs talking to my mom. We got real steep stairs that come up, door shut. Jay's downstairs. The day he passed hunter safety, and there was a phone on the wall there. I'm talking to my mom, and I hear, bam! And I look at my mom, and she's like, what do you think that was? I go, I think Jay must have kicked over a chair. And I ran downstairs, and Jay is literally holding a .22 that I still have the .22 today. It was my dad's. White as a sheet.
No.
And he shot that dang gun by accident and went off. He's like, I didn't know it was loaded. I'm like, dude, you just passed hunter's safety. And had anybody been on the phone right there, he would have smoked him. And
man.
So anyways, Jay and I hunted so much, man. We duck hunted all over. We would go to Parsons, Kansas. We go to Neosho, Kansas. We go to Glen Elder. We hunted all through high school, and that continued into college. We
mainly birds.
Yeah, all duck hunting. All duck hunting. And so then my freshman year, I decided, you know what, man, I'm going to give this Greek system a try. They kept rushing me hard. I didn't want to do it, but I had a couple friends in there. So I ended up joining the second semester of my freshman year, the SAEs, and it wasn't for me, man. But I will tell you, they partied hard.
I bet they did.
Holy moly. And the Greek system at KU is huge. I don't know how many people live in the house. It was a 3-story house. My goodness, I don't know, maybe 100 plus of us in that house.
Oh, my goodness.
It was massive, massive. Greek system's huge there. And I can remember during Hell Week, which is when they would haze us. And back then, they hazed you.
I bet they did.
So one night, they took all of us pledges out and took us out towards, I'm trying to lake it was. Was it Clinton Lake? I think that was the name of it, Clinton Lake. They took us all the way out there, and then we had to hitchhike back. We had to find a way to get back home. So it's like, all right.
All the games,
right? Yep. I mean, they used to drop you off in the fountain naked. I mean, they did all kinds of crazy stuff to us. And then you have to run through campus back. But anyways, we all, we find ways back. We get back. Well, it took us several hours because this is probably a 30-minute drive, and then there's nobody out there. So by the time we get back, a group of them, and this is in the fall, like now. In Kansas, there's a lot of trees. I mean, a lot of trees. So, especially around KU. So what they did is they went around and they had collected all of the trash bags full of leaves. And the pledge floor was the first floor. They filled the entire floor about 5 feet tall with leaves. So when we get back, they're like, clean it up.
Of course.
So we spent that whole night cleaning leaves. Oh my gosh. But the pledge, so it was fun. You got to meet a lot of people, but it really, at that point in my life, I'm kind of like transitioning out of kind of like, this isn't really what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And then
what were you going to school for at that time?
Business.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a business degree.
Yeah.
I ended up graduating with a business degree and a concentration in psychology. So I've got like 24 hours of psychology I took on top of it.
Okay.
And then I was close enough to almost get another degree in economics. I wish I would have. I loved economics. Absolutely loved it. So, but yeah, I graduated in 94, but rewinding the clock a little bit. So I went to school. I graduated in 89 from high school. I was up there in 90. So the summer of 91. Matter of fact, it was 4th of July, actually. I'm up there. I'm still in the fraternity. But I wasn't in the fraternity that summer because it was summertime. So I think I was renting an apartment with some guys or something. Because I continued to work up there. I worked all through my college. I was very blessed. My parents, they paid for my college, which is unbelievable. But that summer, my dad had called, and it was July 4th, 1991, which was weird. On the 4th of July, he was calling, and it's even weirder that I was around because we didn't have cell phones or anything like that. But somehow he got a hold of me, and my dad, I could tell something wasn't right on the phone. And he didn't dance around it. He told it me pretty quick, and it's something I hope you don't ever have to experience it. But he said, "Hey, I need to tell you something. I got some bad news." And I'm like, "What's that, Dad?" He goes, "Your mom's diagnosed with stage 4 cancer."
Oh, man.
And I'm 20 years old. I'm like, "Well, what does that mean?" And it was lung cancer. Mm. And he's like, "Joe, it's not good. It's not good." So I gathered my stuff up. I headed home, and it was rough.
Yeah.
It was a rough day.
I can only imagine.
Because she was our rock.
Right.
And at that time, my brother, and he married an amazing lady, Teresa. They moved to Oregon, actually.
Oh, wow.
And so they were living in Oregon. They had not been there long. Matter of fact, they left May 31st, which was my mom's birthday. That's the only reason why I remember it. So then, and she had not been feeling well. And she's diagnosed June 4th, so not long later. Mm-hmm. Really short. They had just gotten there, matter of fact. And I remember my brother was like, "We're going to come home and we're going to move back." And my mom's like, "Nope, you're going to live your life." And so that year, oh, wow, Chris, I spent a lot of time in Kansas City. And I still was going to school, but I think I may have cut some classes back. I can't remember for sure. Because reality started to set in. It's like the doctor gave her 6 months.
Wow.
And we took a trip for Christmas. My mom, myself, and my dad. My mom loved Oregon. And she loved ferns. Well, John and Teresa were out there, so we went out to go spend Christmas with them.
Oh, awesome.
And I can remember we were driving, close to the coast maybe. As it's Oregon, there's vegetation everywhere, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember my mom had a wig because she had lost all her. She went through so much chemo. You can't imagine. I think it was like 23 rounds of chemo treatment.
My goodness.
And it just totally wrecked her.
Yeah.
So I remember we pulled over to the side, and my mom wanted to go look at the ferns. And it was, I'm not kidding you, it was 5 feet down, maybe. And I've got a picture of her and my dad down there. She died about 2 months later. So she died February 18th, 1992. Wow. So yeah, that was tough, dude.
I can't imagine.
That was tough.
Absolutely.
I can't imagine my brother having to deal with his whole thing from being afar.
Right.
Another reason why John and I are probably so close, right? So,
because that was your rock as a child. What you guys went through, and now.
Yeah, we went through some stuff.
Yeah,
and so here we are. I'm 20 years. I turned 21 in January, so I just turned 21. She died in February. And my dad, he grew up in a time where women took care of everything in the house.
Right.
And my mom, no ifs, ands, or buts, she made the dinners. She did the dishes. She did the laundry. Did the house cleaning. She did everything for us. My dad's mother was exactly the same way. So when my mom passed, I can remember I took off pretty much a year of college. Took 1 or 2 classes, but I was commuting back and forth mostly. And I was done with the fraternity. I'd moved out and had a house with a bunch of other guys. But I spent most of my time back and forth, mostly back helping my dad. And I remember literally having to teach him how to do laundry.
No kidding.
How to put sheets on a bed.
Wow.
How do you run the dishwasher? stuff that he just didn't know how to do.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was tough. But, I think the Lord's not going to give you more than you can handle.
Correct.
That felt at times more.
Oh, absolutely.
And I wrestled with my mom's death for a long time, and I'll
sure.
talk more about that later. But, kind of got through it. It was kind of like this phase of life of just numbness. I don't know how else to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just numb.
Kind of going through the motions, trying to
make sense of it, trying to figure out, what does this mean? How could this happen? A lot of questioning of things. Mm-hmm. So at this point in my life, I'm not going to church, certainly not living a Christian life, but just numb to everything and a bit angry, I think probably was real. So ended up going back, finishing up school, ended up graduating May of 94. And during that time, I was working at a place called DeCourcy Business Systems, which, back to my buddy Jay, he was still at KU. He ended up dating a girl and marrying a girl that her family owned that business, and they ended up selling it to Sharp, I think is who it was. It was copiers and faxes back in the day. That was the deal. And that was kind of my first experience, because I worked there back in the parts room.
Okay.
So there was a group of us, Jay and I, or this other guy, we would commute from Lawrence, Kansas. We'd drive back into Lenexa, I think is where it was at, every day. And I would work and then back and forth. But I was going to school at the same time, so it was just a lot of back and forth windshield time. So I've always driven a ton. Mm-hmm. And but that was my first experience to business. And really, warehouse, inventory management. How does that work? How do salespeople work? It opened my eyes up to a whole nother thing that was kind of like, huh. And I also started to realize salespeople make pretty good money.
Yeah. So,
and back then, copier salesmen, they made a lot of money if they were good, because it was a different time. Mm-hmm. So I did that job. And then I remember I graduated. They did the graduation at KU on a Sunday. You walk down the hill. And I'm still working at DeCourcy, not making hardly any money. By now, I have moved to Overland Park, Kansas. I'm living with a couple people. We rent a house. There's 3 of us in the house. Didn't take a lot of money to live. And I'm just still going through the motions. We're still, doing things probably shouldn't have been doing, for sure. And I get a phone call. So my dad was at my graduation. My dad ended up remarrying, and they were there at the graduation. But it wasn't a big deal. We didn't celebrate big things like that. When I graduated from high school, there was no celebration. When I graduated from college, really no celebration. We just didn't do that as a family.
Yeah.
But they were there. I walked down it, and then Sunday, so that was Sunday. Then the following Monday, I'm at DeCourcy working, and my dad calls, and he says, "Hey, man, I just want you to know something. I'm super proud of you, but I want you to know from this moment forward, you are 100% on your own." And it was like, boom, I got whacked in the face. And it was like, it was probably one of the best things that he could have done, but man, did it suck in the moment.
I bet.
But you talk about putting a flame under your tail.
Oh, man.
I started sending resumes out left and right, and it was not a good time to graduate. There were not many companies coming onto KU's campus.
Really?
So I'm sending resumes out left and right, trying to find a job. And I end up finally getting a job at a place called American Home Exteriors. Straight commission. Oh, great. I got to go perform.
Scary,
yes. Right? At 24 years old, maybe.
No sales.
No sales.
Okay, no sales experience.
None,
Here
man.
We go. Throw you to the wolves. Sink
right.
or swim.
Had to wear a suit every day. Uh-huh. And American Home Exteriors was, have you ever seen the movie Tin Man?
No.
You got to rent it.
Okay.
You will laugh your head off.
Okay.
It's an old one.
Yeah.
But I was a 10-man. And
Okay.
I was hired by this group. We would meet every day at about 9, and we'd do an hour of sales training, role playing. And the guy that was our manager, holy cow, man, they would just berate you to death.
Really?
And I mean, you had to learn how to sell because it was a one-call close. We had a lead generating team where we would get a lead in the morning, get a lead there at the office, and you'd go out in teams. We spent a lot of time focused on the inner city. Mm-hmm. And Kansas City, Kansas is rough. Kansas City, Missouri is rough. Mm-hmm. But they would send us out, and you would basically show up to a residence. You'd go up to the door, and they'd open the door, and you'd be like, "Hi, I'm Joe Elliston with American Home Exteriors. Our company, told us that you wanted to look at siding." And they'd be like, "What are you talking about? You guys called me, and I told you I wasn't interested in it." And you'd be like, if they had a living person on the other end of that line, it was a lead.
Oh, boy.
So you would have to try to work the deal, man.
I tell you what, door-to-door sales, too.
It was rough, but I learned so much about sales. I learned about impulse buyers, right? Mm-hmm. Payment buyers. Mm-hmm. I learned buying signals. They got a bunch of trinkets and stuff, man. They're impulse buyers. I learned about decision makers. All of these things that I learned about because I got to the point where you could take that person who wasn't interested, and the next thing you know, you're selling them windows, you're selling them doors, you're selling them siding. Now, I will tell you, that's a slim shady business. Mm-hmm. Can be. I would not sell to somebody that truly didn't need it.
Right. Not
the same for a lot of people that work there.
Correct. Yeah.
And I did not like it, man. I hated the environment. We would go, you could get a lead. Literally, we'd take our last lead at 8 o'clock at night. We'd start at 9.
Holy smokes.
Get our last lead at 8. In a closed situation, you might spend 3 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
So you get done at 11 o'clock at night. And a lot of times, you go through the whole process, and you get nothing.
Oh, man. And I'm sure those last leads at the end of the day did not want you knocking on their door.
And those last leads were terrible.
Yeah. I bet.
But, I mean, it was a point in my life where it's like, again, I think the Lord's, He's got a plan because
absolutely
what that allowed me to do is to start to understand, okay, how do I read people? Mm-hmm. Right? What are things, what is their personality? So it really started to shape me a little bit. Gave me a really good foundation on some stuff. But I think it was, let me think about this for a second. So I worked for them, and then my buddy Jay called me in February of 95. So this is kind of my life. I'm working, I'm doing this stuff. Been graduated for a couple of years now, or a year, a little over a year. Jay calls me up, and he's like, and Jay and I hung out still. Jay called me up, and he's like, "Hey, man, Carrie," and I knew his wife was part of this hunt group where they fox hunted, they did the full-on deal. Again, very wealthy. Mm-hmm. They would literally, follow the hounds. They had a houndsman. They had, 40, 50 hounds. They would chase the hounds. It was chasing the fox or chasing the coyotes. This elite group of folks, extreme wealth. And Jay's like, "Carrie's got this friend that needs a date to the hunt ball. Would you want to go to it?" And I'm like, "What the heck's the hunt ball, man? I know about the hunt. What's a hunt ball?" He's like, "Well, it's a big formal. It's you got to wear, black ties, whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Whole get up." And he's like, "But it's a big ball, and it's the who's who." So I'm like, "Well, why not? That'd be fun." Mm-hmm. So I'm like, "Who is this? Tell me about this girl." He's like, "Well, her name's Natalie." And I'm like, "I got to meet her before." And I think she probably definitely wanted to meet me before. So it was February 11th, 95. We met up at a bar, Patio Quigley's in Overland Park, Kansas, if I remember right. And I'm there with Jay and his wife, Carrie, because they had gotten married by then. And in comes Natalie. and I met Natalie, and that was one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life, obviously.
Wow.
So a week later, after meeting her, so we met on a Saturday, I think it was. She and I went to and met on Tuesday at a place called Tanner's, another little bar. And then we went to the Hunt Ball and had a great time. I mean, it was so much fun. Mm-hmm. But it opened me up to a whole nother lifestyle again.
Okay.
But Natalie did not come from extreme wealth by any means. She didn't. But she came from an environment of horses. That's what her family was. Her mom still to this day lives on about 100 acres. Back then, they probably had 12 to 15 horses, I'm guessing. And I remember she took me out, and I'd never ridden a horse in my life, I don't think. And they put me on this horse. The horse's name was Hunter.
Okay.
This was a championship horse. Probably one of the most athletic horses that they ever owned. And they put me on this horse, and she's like, well, I figured Hunter would take care of you. I think she's really seeing what kind of a guy I was.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get into riding. I was scared to death of horses. Absolutely scared to death. So Natalie and I started dating, though. And, man, it was awesome. Absolutely awesome. And I knew Chris within 2 weeks that I was going to marry that girl.
No kidding.
And I can tell you exactly when I knew. And again, I hadn't been around this farm lifestyle. Mm-hmm. You know, they lived way out in the country. I'd never been around. I grew up in the city, man. I was worried about people breaking in. Yeah. They didn't lock their doors. And, you know, I can remember she was animal setting for a family that had horses. And I can remember she had ripped jeans on. She goes crawling through the fence, and there's manure everywhere. And I'm like, she's crawling through manure. Because she wanted to get out there, and they had a brand new baby. Okay. What do you call a baby? Foal?
Yeah.
And she went out there, and she just rubbing on this baby. And I'm like, I'm going to marry this girl. She's just different than anybody I'd ever been around.
Wow.
And so we started dating, man, and it was amazing. I would go work, and then I'd go see her late at night, and then I'd work. And then it was June 4th. Yeah, June 4th of 95. All my buddies, we played softball on Sundays.
Okay.
And she was in L.A. She had a friend that lived in L.A. She was out in L.A., and I'm playing softball on Sunday night. And I was up to bat. I hit the ball, and I go flying to first base. Keep in mind, I had never really had any injuries in my life this time. Yes, I'd broken my hand, my foot. I'd cracked my sternum. You know, wrestling, you break fingers. I broke my nose. But
it's tough.
That was life, right? Those casualties of war.
Absolutely.
But I'd never been hurt bad. And I go running to first base, and the first baseman's doing what he's supposed to do. He's got his foot on the outside of the bag. And then at the last minute, for whatever reason, as I am full extended, he steps over the bag, and it locks my knee.
Ouch.
And my tibia shattered, and I tore every ligament.
Holy smokes.
I didn't know. Obviously, you don't know how bad it is, but I'm laying there in excruciating pain. And in my mind, I'm like, I broke my leg. I knew I broke my leg. I knew it. I just absolutely. And my brother, I should tell you, I mean, John's had more surgeries than any person I've ever met in my life. I've had a lot of surgeries. John's probably had 3 times as many.
Jeez.
And he's over 20 surgeries. And so I knew about ligaments and all that because my brother had knee surgeries. But I'm thinking, no, I think I just broke the bone. I broke the bone. Well, they would not bring a freaking stretcher or a golf cart to get me off until I signed the waiver. So I'm laying there.
Oh, my goodness.
And
Come on, guys.
Yeah, this is a giant complex. There's probably 20 different softball fields on it. They wouldn't release me. So, and they wouldn't call an ambulance. So 2 of my friends, Chrissy and Heidi, they were there. I remember somehow they finally got me on a golf cart after I signed the waiver.
Come on.
And Chrissy pulls her car up. I get in it somehow, some way. They take me off to the emergency room. And I'm in the emergency room. I'm sitting in a wheelchair, and I see the ER doctor, and they do x-rays and all that stuff. And I'm sitting there, And I'm in the room, and the doctor, he was a young ER doctor. I just remember he was really young, and I remember thinking, man, you're a young dude. And he comes out, and he's like giddy, excited. It was a weird thing for me. I'm sitting there looking at it. He's like, why is this guy so excited?
I'm miserable. What are you?
And I'm like, and he comes over, he's talking to me. He's like, man, he goes, I've never seen anything like this other than in a severe car accident.
Holy smokes,
and
really?
I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, man, you don't have to be so
Quit
excited
smiling.
about it.
This is my leg.
This is my leg. And the words that came out of his mouth next just made me almost fall out of my chair. He said, I think we can save your leg.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like, oh, man, this is bad. And I remember saying, I have to have surgery? And he's like, oh, boy. Yeah. He goes, your leg is destroyed. I literally, Chris, broke it in over 100 places.
Oh, my
It literally
goodness.
shattered the tibia. It tore all of the ligaments throughout. I almost had a compound fracture on the outside.
Oh, my goodness.
So I remember, I think it was Heidi had called my dad and said, hey, Joe's in the hospital. My dad was kind of like, yeah, Joe's in the hospital. He never gets hurt bad.
Right.
John, on the other hand, he probably would have been driving already. And I remember calling my dad, and I just said, Dad, it's bad. I need you here. And I ended up having surgery the next day on June 5th.
That's when you know it's bad. When
bad.
surgery happens that day or the next, that's...
And the surgeon ended up having to call in a second surgeon.
Oh, my goodness.
And I think they spent close to 7 hours on my surgery.
Wow.
So I remember the guy's name was Wolf, was my main surgeon. I'm in the hospital probably 5-6 days after surgery, I'm guessing. And back then, I don't even remember being in the hospital. I don't remember the first week being out of the hospital. There were so many drugs that they put in you.
Yeah.
But I remember going for my checkup at some point. And I was in a full brace, non-weight bearing for close to 6 months, if I remember right. And I remember going and seeing my doctor at one point, which I would go see him periodically. And I said, man, when am I going to run? And he laughed at me. He's like, maybe if a semi is going to hit you. And again, it was just another thing. And he said, Joe, by the time you're probably 35, you'll have a knee replacement. And he said, you'll probably have 3 or 4 knee replacements in your life. And it was just like, gosh, dang, man, here I am in my early 20s in my prime.
Yeah, coming from somebody that wrestled and played football.
Sports was everything. Activity was everything. Now,
absolutely.
During that whole time, and I didn't share this, but I mean, I started lifting weights at an early age, like in middle school. So at least I had that, and my brother and I, we worked out together all the time. But it was another just like, man, another hit in the gut. But you know what? The Lord has a way of doing things.
Yes, he does.
And apparently he needed to cut my legs out from underneath me to get me on my knees. Because that was another moment in my life where it's just like, Lord. But it's probably the best thing that ever happened to me because I don't know if I'd be here today with some of the stuff that we were doing. And so Natalie was my rock. You know how many times that girl's carried a backpack for me? I've had 6 knee operations.
Man.
Right? I mean, I've had a hip. I've had a shoulder. I've had a hernia. I just had my neck. She has been there through every single one of them.
Wow.
And, gosh, man, it's just, she's an amazing lady.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely
she really
amazing.
is. Truly.
But we were dating, and she took care of me, man. She totally took care of me. So that was a long, long recovery. I'm out on my own. I'm broke. I ended up quitting that American Home Exteriors because I couldn't sell. I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything. So I went back to work for DeCourcy. They were family friend now for me because Jay married their daughter. They said, Joe, come back. We'll give you a job. So I worked there back in doing data entry stuff. And as I'm going through the process, I'm healing. I decided, you know what? I got to start doing some interviewing as I'm getting better. what do I want to do? So Natalie and I, gosh, man, we practiced interviews. She would ask me questions this way, that way, the other. I'm not talking just a little bit. We spent days and days and days doing this. Practice. Mm-hmm. Because back then, the way they would do interviews, like the pharmaceuticals was like the dream job.
Okay.
So I started interviewing pharmaceutical companies, and then I ended up hiring, because it was a bad market, I ended up hiring a headhunter to help me get a good job. And then all of a sudden, this headhunter says, hey, I got this job interview with Black & Decker. Would you have an interest in that? I'm like, heck yeah, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah.
She's like, you're probably going to have to move. Oh.
Maybe I won't be interested in that.
And Natalie was like, you need to go to that interview. I'm like, okay. So I went, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I ended up having 5 interviews with Black & Decker.
Wow.
It was a different time. You had to have a college degree. They wouldn't even look at you unless you had a college degree. And so I had 5 interviews, and the guy, Charlie Kelly, I remember he was the last guy that I was interviewing. He was kind of over it. And he's like, well, I'm going to send you to Dallas. You're going to fly down to Dallas. You got 2 more interviews. And if you get through these 2, you're going to get the job. So I went down there. I thought the interviews did not go good at all. Mm-hmm. And I fly back the same day. I tell Natalie, I'm like, man, I don't think I got it. Charlie called me like 2 days later. He says, hey, we want to offer you a job. And I was just like, yes. He goes, you're going to Vegas. And I'm like, no.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, what about Natalie and I?
Right.
But then I was like, I remember sitting, at a table with her, talking through this, and she's like, you have to go. You have to. Mm-hmm. And I knew she was the one. She knew I was the one. Never questioned would it affect our relationship. So I did, man. I left. And the crazy thing is, it was 1 year to the day of my knee surgery. June 4th, 1996 was my first day at Black & Decker.
Wow.
And so I flew from Kansas City actually to St. Louis.
Okay.
They wanted me to go work in the field with a guy. So I went and worked with this guy. His name was John. I get off the plane. John picks me up. And I'm just kind of a young, cocky dude. And John's like, so what do you want to do today? And I'm like, I'd like to play golf. He's like, I think we could do that. So my very first day with Black & Decker, I played golf in St. Louis with John. And
wow.
But yeah, I mean, so Black & Decker, man, oh my gosh, Chris, I could spend hours and hours talking about it. It was probably the most amazing experience. And those early years, so this is 96. I got hired in 96. Those early years back then, this is before Sarbanes-Oxley. This is before the Enron crisis. Back then, Sarbanes-Oxley came out of all of the Enron scandals and stuff like that, right? The government came in and said, hey, wait a second. We've got to put some regulations in place. So before that time, companies were really ran by marketing, which basically means you had a lot of fun, right? It was not ran by the finance aspect of the company. So, those early years, there was 3 of us living in Las Vegas. We traveled all over the United States, man. And we had these giant vans. And back then we had Black & Decker Industrial. This is before DeWalt.
Yep.
And we just literally traveled. There was one time I was gone for over a month going from place to place to place. And all over the western United States traveling.
Wow.
Going on job sites, going into retail places, going into contract houses, learning about everything. And living in Las Vegas, it was the mecca for training of new tools and new product development. Because you had, back then in the 90s, this is when the commercial boom was going insane.
Okay.
Steve Wynn was building a lot of houses. I mean, New York was going up. The wind was going up. There was just so many. Paris was going up. You just Venetian, just go on and on and on. Mm-hmm. So much going on, and I'm on all these job sites, and we're having them test tools and try tools out. And we're selling tools. Working with a place called Fasteners Inc., which I'll talk about that a little bit more. But it was such an amazing time, and so much growth, so much knowledge, surrounded by phenomenal people. I mean, people that were so good at what they did. Mm-hmm. And so I started learning then about product development. I started learning about marketing. And then in the mid-90s, they launched DeWalt, or we launched DeWalt. And it was originally launched for the retail community, Home Depot, Lowe's, that space, not the new construction. So you had DeWalt and you had Black & Decker Industrial, two products that were exactly the same, just different labels on them, different colors.
Right.
Well, fast forward, DeWalt just crushed it. It was one of the most successful stories ever of a company launching a product or bringing it back to life, because it was originally back in the 2025 when DeWalt was founded. But we ended up dropping the dual brand strategy, just went with Black & Decker Industrial. I mean, dropped Black & Decker Industrial and just went with DeWalt. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen anything like that in my life from an explosion. I think in a couple of years we went from 0 to $1 billion.
Oh my goodness.
And it did not matter what product we came out with. As long as it was yellow and it said DeWalt, I could hit my number. It was insane.
That's wild.
It was unbelievable.
It's crazy to think about.
Yeah. I mean, our biggest competitor was Makita at the time for cordless drills. And that's when we would literally go on to job sites and we'd say, okay, give us every one of your Makitas, every one of your batteries, every one of your chargers. And if you got 5,000 9.2s or 7.2s at the time for Makita, we're going to give you 5,000 drills at no cost. The goal was to take all of the product out, get the batteries out, because once we got them in the system, we knew we had them for life.
Right.
And that worked. It really, really worked.
I bet it did.
But so I did that, and then I ended up getting a job with them. They took me back to Cincinnati. I called on all the automotive plants. We had a very specific tool that we came out with that was torque specific, designed for assembly. So I called on every automotive plant that there was. I called on GE, Whirlpool. I called on anything where there was assembly. And I did that for a year. I put on 80,000 miles that year driving.
Goodness.
I would leave on Monday, get home on Friday.
80,000 miles.
80,000 miles that year.
That is mind-blowing.
Yeah, and that was my first year of marriage.
Oh, boy. Talk about a roller coaster. I can imagine.
Yeah, so Natalie and I got married in 97, in April of 97. And she moved to Cincinnati because I was living in Ohio at the time. And I can remember leaving on Monday, coming home Friday, leaving home Monday. So one time I come home, and we had her horse there. We actually had her horse. They had some polo fields. So she had a little bit of an outlet. And she was working for Pitney Bowes, doing sales. And I come home early one week. I got home on a Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a cell phone back then. So she didn't know. And we're walking up this little house we were renting, and I look in the window, and there's my wife sitting there. And we had a tiny little love seat. We had a little TV with antennas. I mean, we were poor, but you didn't know it. Yeah. And my wife's just bawling, just crying. I walk in the door. I'm like, "What's wrong, honey?" She's like, "This isn't working, man. Like this, you being gone all this much, it just." So, and I was burned out because I had done. I mean, it had been rough. So, as far as all the travel,
yeah.
So I ended up sending out resumes again, man. I was getting ready to take a job with American Express, and I was going to move to New Mexico. And the day I was to accept the offer, a guy who I knew was a regional manager for DeWalt, Ray Skelton for the West, he called me that day and he said, "Hey, man, I've got an opening in Vegas for the IC team, which was the industrial commercial salesperson. Would you want to come back to Vegas?" So we talked about it, and I'm like, "Yeah, man, I would love to come back." So, boom, almost a year to the day from when I left Vegas, we're flying back to Vegas December 23rd.
Boy.
Yeah. So we moved to Vegas, my second time there, and rent a place. And again, Vegas was good to me, man. I got no complaints on Vegas. At that time now, the residential boom started to catch up to the commercial. And I sold for DeWalt. Amazing experience, incredible products, incredible training ground. Got to see every aspect of business.
Not as much travel here in Vegas now.
No travel.
You can do everything in Vegas.
Do everything in Vegas.
Makes sense because
it was
the boom.
Perfect. Yeah. Natalie got a job at Sprint.
Okay.
And she was a project manager. We're making great money for being in our late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And it was great, man. We bought our first house, and then we ended up, we were kind of going to church a little bit. Natalie actually converted to Catholic because, back then I was Catholic.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have a Catholic wedding. So she converted. She wasn't really going to church. But we find a church in Vegas, and it was like, she was started going by herself more because I wasn't really getting, not doing what I needed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And then there were some friends of ours that were at church that we were friends with, and they invited us to go to another church. They said, hey, we're getting baptized at this church. We'd like to have you guys come there for our baptism. We're like, all right, yeah, we'll go for sure. Mm-hmm. So that church was called Shadow Hills Baptist Church, and it's a big mega church. I don't know, they maybe had 3,000 to 4,000 attendees, I'm guessing.
Jeez.
Big.
Yeah, really big.
Really big. And Chris, another changing, point in my life, right? So we walk in, massive, like, holy cow. Keep in mind, Vegas is Vegas.
Right.
You talk about talent up singing, holy cow. It's like going to a professional show every weekend there at that church. But we literally sat in the front row with Eddie and his wife, and they got baptized. And there was something about it. I finally heard the word. Before, as a Catholic, the priest would tell you. And then here, his name was Pastor Rochelle, the words just jumped off. And it was just like, wait a second. I can have a direct relationship with Christ.
Your own walk.
Yeah, how's that work? And at the same time, while this is all going on, I had really immersed myself into a leadership program. For about a 5-year program where I was around some of the most amazing leaders, and I got to experience so many different things from leadership. Not on sales leadership, just on leadership. And so this is all going on, right? And there was a lot of Christian guys and gals that I were getting to know in that group. And it really was opening my eyes too. So kind of was like the perfect storm as I had this kind of going on. Natalie was involved too a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I was really focused on developing what I wanted to do with myself. And then we go and see Eddie and them get baptized at Shadow Hills. So next thing you know, we started attending Shadow Hills. And dude, we're front row every Sunday. Mm-hmm. We get in small groups. Natalie and I got baptized together. They're so amazing to get baptized with your wife. Yeah. And that changed my life to this day. I would say from that moment forward, I've been living my life for Christ. Now I fail. Yeah. No offense or buts.
We all do.
That was a major change, and I'm so grateful. Vegas, like I said, Vegas was so good to us. We had both of our kids there. Brody and Ty were both born there. Natalie and I actually got engaged there up on Mount Charleston.
Wow.
Camping. So Vegas, to me, I've got so many good memories of it. And then, I continued to work with Black & Decker in that role. And then an opportunity came up. They wanted me to take the regional manager out of the Northwest. And they said, well, we want you in Sacramento, Seattle, or Portland. I'm like, no, no, and no. and my wife was like, no.
Yeah,
because
not a chance.
Because we just had Ty. He was just born. Oh, I mean, he's a month old or something. They're wanting us to move. And back then, man, it was, companies, at least Black & Decker, now they called it the firm.
Okay.
And the expectation is you're going to move a lot.
Right.
So didn't want to get blackballed, but I was just like, no, man, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to put my family in that situation. So about 6 months later, Ray comes back to me and he's like, hey, what would it take? And my buddy Rick, who's actually going to be here tomorrow, I'm going to have dinner with, I had left DeWalt. This is a whole section there. I'd left and gone to another division, so I was now with Kwikset. And I did sales for them for about 1.5 years in Vegas. So Rick's like, dude, you should take this role. And I'm like, well, let me move where I want to go to. Because I'd been to Idaho before when I did that blitz all over the West. And I knew Idaho. I was like, I want to move to Idaho.
Yeah.
So I said to Ray, I'm like, it's going to take this amount of money, and you let me live in Idaho. And he's like, okay, we'll do it.
Wow.
So I moved up here, or we did, and that was in whatever year that was, 2004.
To the Treasure Valley.
Yeah, we moved to Treasure Valley 2004. And then I just continued down the path of doing a lot of different roles for him. I was a regional manager for a number of years for the Northwest, and then it became the Northwest and the Central. And then I got to go to work for a gentleman by the name of Tim Goff. And there are, I would tell you, there are people that are leaders, and there are people that are exceptional leaders.
It's the truth.
Tim is exceptional, and he's the president today over there. So he's a good friend. And so I worked for Tim, and Tim stretched me, man. I mean, I look back on my career, those years under him were some of the most stressful but most rewarding because he stretched me.
Yeah.
And I can remember at one point I had and I got promoted to the director of the West. We had an East, a Central, and a West director, and I was the West. And then it went to an East and a West, and then it went to just me. And at the time, I had 6 different brands. So I had Kwikset, I had Baldwin, I had National, I had Weiser, I had K2, and Society Brass. And it was roughly right, I'm going to guess, over $500 million in sales responsibility with, I had all the regional managers, I had all the sales team, and Tim was just like, you can do it. You can do it.
What a job for one guy.
It was a lot.
Wow.
It was a lot. And flying out of Idaho was tough because you had to connect through everything.
Always a connection flight.
Man, I've spent a lot of time in Salt Lake Airport.
Yeah, I bet you have.
Yeah. So, but it was so good, Chris, because it opened me up to so many opportunities of learning about business, right? When you have that much responsibility, I learned about different marketing strategies. Baldwin was a high-end brand. You have a different strategy for that. Mm-hmm. You've got Kwikset that goes into retail, Home Depot, Lowe's, but then you've also got Kwikset that goes into new construction. So you've got different strategies. So I learned all about that. I was working with channel marketing, product marketing, supply chain, demand planning, sales. I mean, all of these dynamics. But it was a lot.
That's a lot on your plate.
I was gone probably 80% of the year. Yeah. I mean, it was nothing for me to, I look at it like right now, if because I stayed at Hilton for a long time, but then I transitioned to Marriott. I spent over 7 years in Marriott's.
7 years?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, I've traveled a lot.
Oh my goodness.
And, so
wow.
When you start to think about it, it's an amazing amount of time, right, spent away from home. And I was burned, it was stretched. So I remember going to Tim and just, saying, hey, man, I need help. We need to get a director on the East. We need to split this thing up. So there was a whole bunch of things that changed and ended up getting they split the country. Had a gentleman by the name of Steve on the East. Steve was a great dude. And it was good. But then as kind of time went on, I started getting bored with it, honestly. And we went through a couple of acquisitions. So it was Black & Decker. Then it became Stanley Black & Decker. Then it became Spectrum. Then it became Awesome most recently. And under Spectrum, they came to me, or maybe it was under Awesome, I can't remember. But they came to me and they said, hey, we want you to take over a brand and pretty much just run it. And I wasn't working for Tim anymore. I was working for another fellow who was probably one of the best salespeople I've ever been around. And had the opportunity. They came to me with an opportunity. And honestly, I said no. And I said, you know what? It wasn't a brand I was excited about.
Okay.
I said, you know what, man? This isn't what I want to do. I knew it was going to be committed from a travel perspective. And I said, you know what? This isn't what I want to do. And by now, Initial Ascent's going too, right? So all of this is going on while Initial Ascent's going.
Pulled multiple directions.
Yeah, and I had been for a while. Yeah. And but in the back of my mind, I'm like, no, I just don't want to do that. I'm not passionate about that. So I went back to them and I just said, nah, I'm not gonna do this. And we had some back and forth. They ended up working with me on some stuff. And long story short is I ended up taking the job. And so I had sole responsibility for the brand, so to speak. And my boss at the time was very hands off. He's like, the brand was broken. And he was like, let's fix it. And I'm going to basically let you run it.
Wow.
And so what turned out to be what I thought was a negative ended up being probably one of my most fun times.
Really?
Yeah, over my almost 28, 29 years there, because I was in total control of it. Mm-hmm. And we did some amazing stuff. It was tough, right? I mean, we blew up the strategy. We fired over 2,000 customers. I mean, it was just so many different things that went down that stretched me, taught me, exposed me to so many different things that made me a better business person, that I know without a shadow of a doubt my past 28 years have made a ton of good impact on the way we think about Initial Ascent.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. And, from all that experience.
Yeah, a ton of experience. World-class, experience, because you think about Black & Decker and all these big-name companies and so forth. So,
well, there's nothing like time either. You can't teach that in a class, an experience. No. You really can't.
No, you're right, 100%. So it was fun, man. I did that for many, many years, and but then we had another change. And, at this point, I was kind of like, you know what? I really believe there's an opportunity with Initial Ascent for this business. And I've got a buddy, he said, when are you going to stop doing your hobby business? Just like, just like,
yeah.
And so I retired in March of this past year, or this year, and have been pretty much full-time here ever since. And it's been such a blessing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, man, it's been a fun ride. I look forward to the next 30 years, what we're going to do here. Because one thing's for sure, I'm not going to sit still.
No, that's a fact.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool to see just the growth from that time, since you obviously I've been a part of this since before, and then to see the change when you went full time, can absolutely see it and feel it. Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of big things happening.
There's a lot of great things. I mean, it's one of the things that, there's a million things I could talk about, but I would say one of the big things that corporate America taught me, Black & Decker taught me, that group of people, you surround yourself with talent, you will perform better.
Right.
You surround yourself and you have a team. And I had, like that last group, I had a team that was so good that, leadership is really surrounding yourself with people who are talented, and you get out of the way and you let them perform.
Right.
And, that was one of the things that I really learned is like, you know what? I don't know everything by any means. I love to learn, kind of my routine. Most mornings I'm up for a good hour and a half working on self-development. Mm-hmm. And it's become a passion ever since I kind of got over that hump as a kid for learning. But man, there's only so much Joe can do. But if Joe can surround himself with talent that has a passion and drive and desire, you can change the world.
Oh,
I mean, it's amazing what you can do if you surround yourself with the right people. So that's something that I've always, just been super excited about, is having those opportunities for the last 28 years to be around people that are so good at what they do that I can just learn a little bit from them, right? And then take that and apply what we're doing, over here at Initial Ascent. And I don't know, it seems to be working.
It's working.
Obviously, Dennis is a huge part of what we do around here. So yeah, he and I together, it feels like things are going in the right direction.
It absolutely does. I promise they are. It's really cool.
So
I love it. Well, thank you for opening up so much.
Dude.
Some things aren't easy to talk about, but I think
I don't let too many close.
Yeah, but these are, there's somebody out there that needs to hear these things in all reality, and there's probably someone out there that's got similar experiences, and maybe this is the time that they needed to hear something like this. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. We're here to serve and impact others, right? Just as you did, which, by the way, was spoken at my church. Did you get that? Oh yeah, I've talked to you about that.
No, okay.
Yeah, from the podium, dude. Your podcast story.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool.
Yep.
Hey, anyway, the Lord can use us, right?
Absolutely.
It's cool. So special. Well, and it's cool to see just how all of those roads brought you to where you are. Because you can overlook those things. Like, God's plan is perfect.
Yes.
Sometimes we look at it and we're like, why? Why now?
Yeah.
And then to see now, as you can look back on it and self-reflect, like where you just laid that out, it's like, oh, yep, He's been there from the very beginning.
He has, and I mentioned earlier, and I forgot to kind of come back to it. I struggled a lot with my mom passing for about 10 years, right? I was angry.
Yeah.
But it fits right with what you're talking about. We were at church, Shadow Hills, in Vegas. And I remember, this was 10 years after my mom died. I remember Pastor Rochelle saying, there are going to be things in life that our pea-sized brains can't comprehend of God's magnitude and decision. And it just hit me.
Man.
I'll never understand why my mom died at 48 years old. But God knows.
Yep.
And I'm good with that.
He does.
I'm good with that.
Right.
So.
Amen to that.
Amen, brother.
Man. Okay. I'm going to read a review, pay some bills.
There you go. I like it.
We'll get to a review. The other thing that I want to do, leave a 5-star review because we're going to give some more things away. I have here a 4-pack of pack sacks. So I want a 5-star review left on either Apple or Spotify. Leave the review. Make sure you leave a comment with that review, not just the 5 stars. I want to hear something, say something you like about the show. And in a week or two, I'm going to pick another comment and review. I'm going to share it, and I'm going to send you a set of pack sacks. So make sure that you're listening. Share this podcast with a friend. We really appreciate it. And the one I'm going to read today is from J Downs 7. Absolutely phenomenal life podcast with a bunch of great dudes. I love opening with a prayer. No one ever feels closer to the Lord than when you're out in nature on a hunting adventure. Thanks for the great podcast, products, and for even being better people. We really appreciate the comments. We appreciate everything. Joe, thank you for opening up and sharing your life with us. It's impactful. It really is.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to go and kind of think through some of these things.
Yeah, self-reflection's important. I'm going to encourage everyone that's listening, do the same thing.
I would too, man.
Put yourself in that situation. Get up a couple hours before your family gets up, drink a cup of coffee, read your Bible, and reflect.
Yep, 100%.
So, thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Until next time, keep your eyes on the summit. This is the Mountain Dude Podcast, signing off.